truth?
Oh, I'm all ears.
Okay. The truth.
I always tell the truth, even when I lie.
Why do you find it so hard to believe?
Why do you find it so easy?
It's never been easy.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth.
All I'm offering is the truth. Nothing more.
Hello and welcome back to Truthful Talk. I am your host, Marco DeGeorge, and I am joined once again by the lovely and talented Natalie Bulaich. Hello, Nat.
Hello, Marco.
It's good to be back.
It's great to be back.
And today we have back with us in studio again is Chris Sheeran, actor, filmmaker in town. Thank you for being back with us, Chris. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Thank you so much for having me back on.
You're very welcome. And it's great because we had more. I mean, we went through the whole last episode and there was so much to talk about. And so it's like, no, we have to have you back and finish up kind of the conversations that were started.
Honored. It's like I never even left.
So it's great to have you back on. But today I think I really wanted to talk because it's been a topic that comes up quite often, not just in acting, but in artistry. And it's this elusive thing called confidence. And because there's so many, I hear this from so many students that, or even potential students, want to come and take an acting class, but they're so terrified of even coming to an open house or reaching out and even asking about it. And there's so, that self-consciousness and that fear and that anxiety is so overwhelming. It stops people from even taking the first step of even attempting something. And in fact, I remember we had an open house recently at Truthful Acting, and someone pulled up. They were afraid that they were being invited by someone else and, coming to the open house, and they pulled up in their car and just sat in their car for like another 10, 15 minutes because of the fear of even coming in and being judged. And I think so many people that want to get involved in the arts, whether it's acting, whether it's singing, whether it's dancing, whatever it is, it's something in the artistic, especially the performance arts. You want to do it and you have this passion for doing it, but yet that fear or anxiety gets in the way. So I figured today would be a good time to talk about that and to talk about how do we each individually get over that and what advice we can give people on
absolutely.
On how to do that. Nat, how do you feel about this whole topic?
Oh my goodness. There's so much to even address. Personally for me, I won't give too much of a long history, but impending fear of death. I would die if I was, gonna walk in class, stand in front of a classroom. I remember in some kind of class growing up, 8th grade or something, I remember talking to the teacher and telling her, please, I can't get up there. I can't get up there. Knowing that I had always a love and passion for the arts and the whatever it is. But it's so interesting. It's like there is no way around it but through it, and to follow your instincts, if that's what you have in your heart that you want to explore in those secret places that stay with you. They don't leave you. They just get louder and you just get mad at not going to explore it. And so then it builds like a dirty cycle of just hating oneself for not going, not showing up. It's petrifying. All I can say is those things that call you are what you must do. And if you can at least go with somebody, come with somebody, that's a nice step in the journey. But I understand the fear. And since I've been here with you taking classes for so long, all I can say is, coming from this side, you gain the confidence through going through each and every class, each and every semester, each and every challenge. There's no other way. If you choose not to take a class in these art forms, you will always stay in the same place you have always been. But if you have some kind of pull I do believe it's a pull towards the arts in general. It's calling you. Just step in. That's all I can say I can go deeper and longer, but I wish that I had that confidence younger or somebody that I could go with, because I would have been that person in the car. And I have been that person for years. I can go deep. Petrifying fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Chris, how about for you? Have you dealt with any of that? Maybe starting out as a filmmaker or even starting here as acting?
Yeah.
What have you dealt with in either confidence or, self-consciousness?
I was that person sitting in the car.
Okay.
My first open house. I knew not one person in Orlando except for my family. Not one person. And I was absolutely terrified. But to me, confidence is the willingness to fail. And I grew up as a skateboarder, failing. That's how you learn your tricks.
Yeah.
You learn your tricks by spending all day trying to do one trick just to land it once.
Yeah.
And even if you try and do it again, you're probably not going to land it. But that consistency is what helps build confidence. It's not something that you're born to have. It's a skill set. And training yourself is the best way to gain confidence. And so I say to those that are sitting in their car, and there's multiple things that we can get into that I have to do to keep my quote unquote confidence up. Because some people will just say, oh, you were born confident.
Right.
You should see pictures of me when I was 19, 20 years old. I was hiding behind my hair and my look because I didn't have actual confidence. I was standing on stage and I could not talk to the audience. I would just wait for the band to play.
Yeah.
Because I was a frontman vocalist. I had no confidence.
On top of that, which is so people won't understand that a lot of the time too. When you're somebody who's an artist, but
right.
We still struggle with that frontman vocalist, and you would think that person has all the confidence in the world, and it's just sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm just thinking, and you're struggling with this horrible feeling.
We all do as human beings, and I love it. I love that it's something that you teach, especially in the second semester. It's about getting out of the box and living on the edge as an artist. It's extremely important. Once again, whether you could use all the analogies in the world. If you're standing on the edge of a diving board and you want to jump in, it takes that extra oomph for you to step in there. And a couple of things that I do just to bring it up real quick is the phones and the scrolling and all of that creates a fragmented brain. So first and foremost, if you want to reduce your anxiety, go take a walk in nature, okay? Get off of your devices unless it's specific. Like, I'm going on here to do this. That will help a lot with the anxiety. Exercise helps a lot as well. Your eating patterns, that helps a lot, because I'll tell you what, while we still have to build up confidence, the confidence nowadays versus even 10, 12 years ago in general society has weakened massively simply because of our devices. There's too much going on inside the brain. And so if you dial that back alone, you'll notice your, once again, quote unquote, confidence start to come back. And that helps a lot.
What do we say though because there's so many people, and I don't ever hear about it until afterwards, of course. I'll hear from students that have said, I wanted to take your course 5 years ago. I've been signed up for your mailing list for 5 years. I've been wanting to do it, but something has always held me back. Something has stopped me from taking that plunge. What advice can you give someone? And I think, to take a step back from that, I think the issue in performing arts is there's a fear of not fitting in, fear of not being good enough. I mean, obviously you're going into a classroom with other people. And what if you can't do this thing? Right. And that comes from just not even knowing what acting is to begin with. So you think you have to have this talent. You have to walk into the room already, quote unquote, talented. Yeah. And so I think that's where a lot of that fear comes in. But I mean, it's a common story of, oh yeah, I've been thinking about this for 5 years and just never did it. And so what advice would either of you have to Like, what do you tell somebody that really wants to do something but is so desperately afraid of?
I would start with community. Look for community and not for something within yourself, because that willingness to fail is going to happen whether you expect it or not. Not everybody knows how to come in and act. I didn't know how to act, and neither did any of my peers when I first began. But we were all willing to fail together, and that's what I deeply love about this studio is there's a camaraderie that begins within the class, and we do group circles at the end of the day, and we just kind of go over everything. And that alone is building strength within ourselves as artists, even though it's a communal thing. So it starts with community first. Go and seek community. Go to the open house. Just go and talk to somebody, right? Be willing to just be who you are and see if it's the type of environment that you belong in. And if it doesn't feel right, you'll know immediately. Go try a different place. But it starts with community first to help build confidence.
Nat, what are your thoughts?
I keep thinking of the degrees of anxiety, of fear. Community is massively important. I think a great point, Chris, because these individuals are growing up in families that are not giving to them this life of going through the arts and performing arts, like you're saying and mentioning. They have no idea. I come from that background. I'm sure you do. So you're just alone in your own thoughts with a deep desire to learn to train. So it's difficult to, outside of just saying like what you're talking about, which I think community is amazing. There's small baby steps. All I can say is if you have that longing, reach out, send a text, send an email, take one step towards that, whatever it is. If that took somebody 5 years to even come and see you, call first, write an email. Because it's almost so much at one time, but that's where they need to be. They need to be here. And
yes,
especially if somebody's saying for years, then they really need to be here more than anything. Reach out with people, community. I think that's a great point.
If you need to be pushed, self-reflection helps. How auditioning was a question that I would get asked a lot by peers. How do you audition and not feel so anxiety driven? I'm like, I do feel the anxiety before I begin, but what I do is I reflect on, first and foremost, I'm 34 years old. So I've already had 14 plus years of regular working experience, clocking into a job that I absolutely do not want to be at, but it pays the bills and I have to show up here. So if I reflect on that time, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever the shift is, that's something that I prefer not to give my time to versus I have this idea that I want to become an actor or a filmmaker and I want to give my time to that. So why wouldn't I just try? Why wouldn't I jump off the diving board and give my time to this and just see what happens? And sometimes I understand a lot of people might feel like they're being judged, which kind of goes back to find the right energy, find the right space that makes you feel safe to pursue what you're looking to do, because that will help out.
And seek out people around you in your community, in somewhere that you are motivated, inspired by. Ask them if they want to have a tea or something. There's such small things, but it's the beginning. When you see somebody have that spark of energy or some kind of life force that you're just so interested in or you want to be like, I think it's nice to have a radar for that. What am I looking for? What do I like? You know what you want. I want positivity. I want a life of artistry and beauty. What do I want? And eventually you'll find something throughout everything. They'll kind of peek out, like seek and ye shall find kind of thing. It is a self-reflective journey, and just be around those people who are doing things that you want to do in a healthy way, of course, but you have to get out of that.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I mean, you have to connect up with people and you have to, but I think that's the hard step, connecting up with someone, like figuring out who to connect up with. To me, I think it comes down to the misconception of what acting is. Mm-hmm. before you learn acting, you believe that it's something you're born with. There's this misconception that acting is a talent, a natural talent. And so many people want to explore it, but they are immediately self-critical of saying, but I'm not talented. I can't do what they're doing. Not realizing that it's a learned skill. Thinking you have to walk into the room and immediately step on stage and be brilliant. And it's like, no, that's not that's not it at all.
They had to start somewhere as well.
Everyone had to start somewhere. But of course, we don't see artists in the beginning. We see the artists once they make it, after the 20, 30 years of hard work that they've put into it. We don't actually catch them in the process of doing it. So I think that's a big part of it, is people think that it's a natural talent. They might not have it. So why even pursue it, or why walk into a classroom and receive the validation? And I say validation, maybe the clarification that they're not talented. There's that fear.
Yeah.
Until you walk in the classroom, you still might be able to make it.
Yeah.
After you walk in and someone tells you you can't make it.
Oh, yeah. That's devastating.
Yeah, that fear will eat you alive, but that's also a
If you
learned
let it,
skill,
yeah.
is to listen to your gut.
Listen to your
gut and act on it.
Yeah.
That's a learned skill as well. It's not just something that somebody has. You have to act on it, like we were talking about before. Acting on your gut is the same thing as confidence.
Right.
It's something that you just go and do. And I'm willing to fail. I'm willing to stand up in front of the class and go first, just to see if what I'm feeling will work, and then I'll be guided or directed after that. But I need to see. It's something is in me, it's brewing in me, and I need to let this out. If you could get to that point, it will work in other areas of your life as well, even outside of acting. Whether it's like job hunting or just talking to people in general, you'll have such a confidence to go up to people. I'm going to tell you right now, you'll still be terrified inside, but you'll take a deep breath, go up, and you'll make it happen.
Or teachers, or like the community, or some karate, whatever, yoga instructor, your librarian, your somebody, or whatever. It's somebody to reach out to.
A librarian.
To say, I know. Yeah. Do you know of anybody or any acting class that are here or around or whatever it is, and somebody who just knows more than you about what you don't know, to reach out from being just surrounded by people who don't know into something else, someone who has that path.
Yeah.
And there's a difference. It's difficult to find. And when you do find it, it is a sense of incredible community, but it's worth going through the journey. And you have to recognize that if it's been 3 years, 2 years, whatever it is, that means that whatever you're doing currently is not working. So it's it's totally inward and being like, okay, well, let me step out and try one thing, step by step. It's a lot, but it's worth it.
We talked about, on last episode, we talked about the different types of classes we have in this country, and the fact that there's this idea that there's these short form training things. I think that also gets into the head of some people, thinking that, oh, wait, it only takes 8 weeks to be an actor, or 12 weeks to be an actor, or 6 months to be an actor. Therefore, I must have something that I'm already born with, because there's not a long road to it. Versus if people knew that, no, you have to study years. It's 5-10 years to be an actor. That's what you have to do. I think if people knew that, maybe they would be, I don't know, maybe a little less inclined, or a little less inhibited to take that first step, because it's like, okay, well, I understand it's a long journey. I understand I don't know really anything about it yet. It's not a natural thing. But when people think that, oh, I need to be naturally talented, I'm going to take this class, and they're saying in 8 weeks I can be doing this.
Yeah, it's false. It's not. That's not how it works. And that pulling back the curtain and saying, oh yeah, okay, so these people do train throughout the country, or in England, 4 years. They're going 4-year universities, and then even more extensive training for 2 to 4 years after that, with also going into theater after that. It's a long game, if you will. And We just expect things sometimes here in this country that we're going to be an incredible, I don't know, artist overnight, or I don't understand it. And I'm with you on this, where if it's something that you love or you want to do, don't you want to explore it the most and be trained the best so you can give the best of you and go through that journey? Yeah.
You guys are going basically in this area where if you want something out of it so quick, then you want something different, fame,
Right.
or a get rich quick scheme or whatever. It's not for the actual skill that you're learning, because anybody knows whether it actually takes 10,000 hours or not. It's the 10,000 hour rule. To build a
Right.
skill, it takes a long time, and it's not about the end or the start. It's about the journey.
Yes.
Right. So taking this journey is the most important part of what you're doing. And that is, it's so important for the confidence to understand that you're on a journey and not that you're trying to get somewhere. I'm not trying to be in Hollywood.
There already.
Right. I want to tell good stories. So how do I get better at telling greater stories?
To me, and the education is what gives you the confidence.
Yeah.
The more you know about something, the more confident you can feel about executing whatever that skill is.
Agreed. I love to say that I'm a student for life. Now, a student, it's a two-way thing. Yes, you need the education and the knowledge, but you also must put it into practice.
Yes.
You must do that repetitiously.
That reminds me I'm thinking of a surgeon or a doctor. You have a first year med student or somebody you're not going to trust them with the scalpel, with brain surgery
Please
or
don't
whatever.
touch
You're going to wait until somebody's ready. And even for them, it's still a practice at the highest level under this pressure. But they were never expected to have all of those skills in the beginning out of high school or whatever that is. And I also heard somewhere in England that they actually respect actors as much as they do doctors.
Yes.
Which is beautiful.
Yeah, culturally.
So, that's a whole other aspect of it. But that breeds confidence. The doctors all had to train way back before, and they had to start also in the same place we have, in a place that is without the experience and the education and the time that it takes and the expertise and all of the teachers that are there guiding them step by step on the way so that they're ready for the theater or surgery or whatever it is. But it's amazing that we think that we're supposed to just pop out and be the next whatever without training.
But that's good. That's a good point where, we wouldn't want a surgeon operating on us that has only done classroom stuff only.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is our first surgery is going to be on you.
You don't want to know that.
No. There's a reason that, in the medical field, sure, they go from the classroom, but then they go into practicals, and then you have to do your internship, right? I mean, you go through a series of steps of actually applying, like you were saying, Chris, like applying everything that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do that. You have to have both. You can't just have the theory of it. And it needs, and which goes back to like what they do in London. Sure, you go through university, which is probably 3 to 4 years. And then you go through conservatory, which is another 3 to 4 years. Then you go into something called repertory, which is basically just working a lot in theater over and over and over again. A lot of different shows, but they're running several shows at the same time. And so it gives the actors a very practical thing. I mean, they train for 8 to 10 years as an actor. Then they come over and they do American film. And we're like, oh my God, they're brand like that. That's our first introduction to them. So we think, oh, they're just magically talented.
Wow. Yeah. And that is something that has to be erased from our minds as people who don't know what acting is, the training, all of that. But it's this thing, this unicorn, like, no, I was supposed to be the next in 2 years from now, or in 12 weeks, I'm going to be the whatever that is. And they believe it with all of their heart. And then they get disenchanted when that doesn't happen.
And you can still use that though as your momentum. Like once again, being in my 30s, I use that as momentum to be like, okay, I'm going to drill so hard and stay consistent with my learning, because by the time in 10 years when I'm 45, I'd love to be making Denis Villeneuve type scale films, right? And I know the craft so well because I've been on this journey already for 6-7 years as a filmmaker, now 2 years as an actor. So if I can keep piling on these extra years of experience, I love that keyword that you used before. Experience is such a builder of confidence.
Yes.
And we're not talking, there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. We're not saying that you're like, I'm better than anybody or I will make the greatest thing.
Yeah.
It's self-confidence to jump off the diving board and to step into a project and be vulnerable, which is something that I also think that we should go into, that it requires a lot of self-exploration.
Yes.
To release those emotional blocks so that you can get out of the car and come and speak to people. Because I know that you bring this up a lot, but it's something that somebody put in your head about you,
right,
that makes you afraid or fearful of what other people may say. Typically, it could be parents, it could be siblings, family members, friends, teachers, whatever the case is. We've been told or conditioned a certain manner, and it's up to us to undo that conditioning,
right,
to be free.
But you're right, we are conditioned
Yes.
for that. We're taught those things. To go back, one thing you were saying about confidence versus arrogance.
Yes.
It's because I go over this a lot when I'm teaching filmmakers, because part of what I teach them is how to identify truly talented actors. When I say talented, trained.
Yeah, the skill set.
Well-trained actors who are truly confident in what they can do. And I say you have to watch out for the arrogant actors, because they'll slip in and then you'll have trouble. And it's what I try to tell them is confidence is the feeling that you can do something well.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is the feeling that you can do something well. Not that we don't have anxiety, or not that it's not going to be hard work, but that we have a skill set that if we do the skill set, we can do it well. Versus arrogance is actually the lack of confidence, but it's the need to be seen by others that you're confident. So arrogance is the showing of false confidence, because we need people to think we're confident. So that's the difference. Confidence is actually a feeling of, no, I can do this if I put the work into it.
Right.
Arrogance is, I want you to see me that I know what I'm doing, that I'm really good at what I'm doing.
Yes.
And that's why arrogance comes, most of the time we can see arrogance. We can feel it. It comes across so false.
Yeah.
It's a feeling.
It's a feeling.
It's an actual feeling that you can feel. Yeah.
And so for filmmakers who, when I'm training them how do you cast your film? I said, you must avoid the arrogant actor. Not because they're just difficult to work with, which for the most part they are, but an arrogant actor is lacking confidence and therefore doesn't have the skill set. Typically you're lacking confidence because you haven't been trained. You don't have the tools in order to be confident, nor do you have the humility to say, I don't know how to do this.
Right.
It's both of those things. So vanity comes into that as well. And it's like, no, when you're casting for a film or even for theater, for anything, when we're casting and we're trying to figure out who to work with, who to collaborate with, to me, I want the most humble actors, but that are the hardest working and have a process to fall back on.
And confidence is extremely healthy for people to have, especially in performing arts, but in anything. I think when you feel that somebody like, I got this, like I can do this, or any job or career that they have. And if they don't have it, you feel like, okay, now I got to pull something out of you. So that's difficult too. So even if you are trained, but let's say you're still very much pulled all the way back here.
Right.
What good does that do people? Because you're going to make the director's job harder, So there is a beautiful thing where that confidence comes eventually, and you can step into it without even knowing you stepped, but it's there, and it's a feeling like, yes, these two hands can. Yes, I can. Very interesting between like, I don't know, and really feeling that of I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's a readiness that happens, the confidence. It's very interesting. It took a long time for me as an actor to have it. But then once I had it, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm capable to handle this gift, this pressure, this stress, whatever it is, I can. And I wouldn't have been able to do any of the roles had it not been for all the years of training before. There was no way. I think we've talked about this before. No way. It takes time. And you like trusting the process. Work, action.
Work is where confidence comes from. Repetition, doing it over and over again. That's where you build the confidence. The anxiety will never go away, but that is the energy that will propel you into the momentum of actually doing it to get it done. And that's something that, once again, it goes back into lifestyle. As we go into this digital future, a lot of this technology is forcing our brains to mush. And I love one of our eldest classmates, Dee Dee. She loves to say how much she reads and keeps sharpening her brain, because it's so imperative if you want to keep doing things in life. And that requires confidence.
Yeah.
The confidence to go out there and show up to a class 2 times a week for 28 classes.
Right.
That takes confidence to do that. And what you're doing is just training yourself. So whether it's drawing or writing or being an actor, whatever it is, you must continuously not stop being a student, which is learning something and applying.
To me, confidence goes hand in hand with humility. I think in order to truly be confident, you have to have humility, because humility is the ability to say, I don't know. It's the ability to be wrong about something, to not always have the answer, to not always be right, or to not always look great. It's to being humble. And to me, you can't have confidence without humility, because if you're constantly worried about the appearance of what you look like, then you're not going to just trust in your feelings and what you're doing and just leave yourself alone. And in order to gain the confidence, we have to go through several steps of not knowing what the hell we're talking about, not knowing what we're doing, or doing it poorly. Everything we can do well, we have to do poorly first. We have to kind of stumble, which I try to tell all of my students, both whether they're filmmakers or actors, that struggle is good. Right? We want to actually lean into struggling through something, because when we struggle and we push ourselves through, that's when we learn.
Yes.
The struggle is actually what's going to lead towards confidence.
Oh yeah. There's science behind that. There's science behind risk taking. This is why we do like cold plunges and all of that. Seriously, it's all chemicals in our brain. And the more that you get yourself to face the fears of something that you don't want to do, you do that in other areas of your life. So if you're looking to start something, try to change your lifestyle in a manner that will help you take more risks, because you'll see those doors start to open up a lot more in other areas of your life as well.
The other thing I try to say, though, is that there's a big difference between struggling and suffering, because too many times we put the two together. We think, struggling is learning how to do something well, like meaning, making an attempt and you fall short. So you make another attempt and you fall short. That's okay. I mean, that's struggling. We struggle how to do just about anything we first start doing. Suffering is, there's something harmful that's being done to you, or you're feeling bad about it. I mean, those are things that we want to avoid. We want to separate out the suffering from the struggle. Because as an actor, we're going to have struggle, we're going to have sacrifice, we're going to have those things, but we don't necessarily have to suffer for it. So anyone that's listening out there thinking that you might want to try acting, you don't have to suffer for your art.
Never.
We struggle for the art, yes, all the time, but you don't have to suffer for it. They're two totally different things.
Yes. Would you say that to suffer is internal and struggle is external?
Yeah.
Right? Suffer would be more of an emotional based thing.
Oh, definitely. But struggle, I mean, suffering is feeling bad.
Right.
Somehow. It's the feeling that suffering could come from the self feelings of not being good enough, or not being able to do this, feeling you're not enough in some way. suffering could also come from, well, different forms of art, right? Without getting too far into it. But so for the form of acting that works off of real events in your life, well, you're going to suffer doing that. You're going back to something that was traumatic in your actual life. You're recalling that. And then that's going to make you suffer because you suffered through it initially. And really what we're doing is just recalling that suffering and doing it again to pull the emotion out of it, which is why we say, no, we don't do that. We don't need to suffer because our acting needs to be joyful.
Yes.
Any art form should be joyful. We don't need to suffer for the art, but struggling is good because struggling means we're outside of the box. We have to struggle to push our limits. We have to struggle to grow. We can't grow just up here in our head, right? We have to grow by doing something we've never done before. And so the struggle is good. I challenge, especially my filmmakers, I'll challenge them every time you make a film, do something you've never done before. Whatever that is. I mean, push the actors further than you've never gone before. I don't know, set up a filmmaking style that you've never done. Just do something, even as small as it is. And I think as an actor, I always try to do that as an actor. I always want to do something I've never done, whether it's an accent or whether it's something physical, whether it's emotional. I want to push myself beyond that as a director, whatever it is. Because if I ever stop struggling, then I stop growing.
Yes. Evolving. Growing.
Yeah.
Learning from it. Yeah. Growth. And that's the only way through it. In every working out, everything. Eventually, when you go to the gym, they say something about like, you're going to max out today. So we're going to see. Because when I first go to the gym, I can't pick up 15 pounds or, do it 8 times or whatever it is. But then there's a max out. We're going to test where you are. The whole point of it is to fail, to see where you are. And it's the same thing with what we're doing here. The whole point of this is to explore, to get better, to go on the journey, this adventure, to see what it is that we can push ourselves to do in a healthy environment. This is a very healthy way to do internally. And when you do push yourself, it's just, believe it or not, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I kind of did that. I'm glad that I did it. Because sometimes you go to bed at night thinking, man, I should have done that. Or why did I chicken out on that? And once you get to a point of too many nights like that and you're trained, you're like, that's it. I'm going to jump. I'm going to go in the cold water. Or I'm going to do something with the accent or all this stuff that it's fun. It's where the life takes place. It gives us like that energy that is needed in our day-to-day lives.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes. If you go the opposite way of confidence, you're going to regret. Because then you reflect.
Yeah.
So if you're finding yourself in a pit of regret, laying at night and being like, I should have went in there. I should have done this. I should have done that. The opposite way is the confidence.
Yep.
And you do that by the willingness to fail. Once again, you must be willing to fail and be okay with the failing to grow.
And as we talk about this concept called failing, all we're really saying is not doing it well. We have an expectation. In order to fail, we have to have an expectation. So we have an expectation of what it should be. When we do it, it falls short of that expectation in some way. But really what we learn is as an artist, we let go of failure. There is no failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's never an end point.
Right.
Right.
You're on the journey.
Art is never finished.
Only abandoned.
Only abandoned, right. We never finish it. It's always evolving. It's always turning into something else. So we never reach a destination with the art. It's a consistent journey. So because of that, we change our mindset from failing to growing. We don't fail, we're growing. Anytime we stumble, anytime we struggle, anytime we're up against an obstacle and we push through it, we've just grown. And now we've evolved as an artist, we've evolved the art that we're in, both of those things. So it goes all the way back to when we talked about someone sitting in their car not coming inside. Like what do we tell them? And I think you're not going to start out confident. confidence comes from doing the work over and over and over and over and over again. And then eventually you're going to start gaining confidence in certain areas of being an artist. And then you keep working. But there's always this, I don't know, these unsure areas that we're in. I mean, every time I pick up a script, it scares the hell out of me. I mean, if I have to learn a script, it's like, I don't know how to memorize.
That's excitement though, right? That same feeling of nervousness, of anxiety is also excitement. It's adrenaline. You must channel the adrenaline into that moment.
Yeah.
Go. I have all kinds of weird methods to my madness. If you're that person sitting in the car, there is no phone before you leave home on your way here, unless it's your GPS, of course. Sing at the top of your lungs to your favorite songs that make you feel like you. Whatever it takes for you to become you, do that before you show up. You must do preparation before you come and show up. That's part of the confidence. It's part of the skill building, is knowing who you are. Even if you don't know who you are, you can still step in here and find who you are. But it helps a lot to just to know your own little ticks that kind of help. That's what helped me, you know? I'm a death metal vocalist, so I like to scream in the car. People probably
hey, there you go. That works.
People think I look crazy, I'm sure, when we stop at a red light, but it helps like release the tension that I might be getting from the adrenaline of like doing something new.
Yeah.
But I still push myself to go through and see what's going to happen. That's what I'm here for, is what's on the other side.
Curiosity.
Yeah. Which is important as an artist.
Yeah.
As a human being, I think it's important.
Yes.
But especially as an artist, where we're constantly evolving the art, learning new things, we have to be so curious.
Yes.
Yes. Which is, we teach that too. We teach something called outward focus. In order to be curious, you have to be in the moment, and you have to be in tune with what's happening around you. That's all outward focus. When we're inwardly focused, we're typically thinking of things that are outside of the moment. But wanting to explore, wanting to push, wanting to go further, that's all like right here in this moment, which is so important. So if any of you are dealing with anxiety or lack of confidence, you're not alone. I mean, everyone deals in some way with a lack of confidence, with extreme anxiety, social anxiety. So many of our students have social anxiety, sometimes extreme social anxiety, which simply means you struggle being in groups of people. Many people struggle being in groups of people, especially when you don't know them. But don't let that stop you from taking the first step. The first step is finding a place to study and learn. And because if nothing else, it goes back to what you were saying, Chris, community. Yeah. It goes back to finding a community to be involved in. And an acting class can be a group of like-minded people who are trying to learn the same craft as you. And if it's in... Now, what I'll say about acting classes is wherever you're listening from and whatever city you're in or wherever in the world you are, go in and meet the people who you're going to train with. Ask questions about the style of training, how they teach, what they believe in, because you need to. I'm not a big believer in names, meaning it doesn't matter if you're studying at a certain studio name or a certain approach or anything else. What matters is who are you studying with, and do you feel they can push you and guide you along a path without adding more anxiety or without adding more fear or without making you feel not good enough. Because believe it or not, there's a lot of acting classes out there that use fear as a tactic. That they're very critical and judgmental, and it's how many studios have done it, across the world for a long time. But really, acting is an exploration of self, and you need to find the right teachers that can make you feel good about you, about exploring yourself. With acting, there is no destination. As we said, that there is we don't get to the point where we know exactly what we're doing and that's all we're doing. Even like, let's say a run of a play. It's not that we're doing the same thing night after night after night. Yes, it's the same words we're speaking and it's the same story, but it's about living truthfully in the moment. And we learn how to do that. We learn how to step into that. And it's so important. So you want to find a studio or a school or a teacher that you can work with that is going to give you permission to freely explore. Because the truth is, even if we're doing a run of a show, every single night you step on stage, it's still an experiment. We don't know what's going to happen. We're still just giving our best attempt in that moment, and we're going to see what happens.
Yep. And it's fresh. When you step on stage, it's just, someone asked me recently, don't you get tired of it or doesn't it get boring? I was like, oh, no.
No.
That's the excitement right there.
No.
Is that it's going to be new every single time you
Right.
step up to do something, to perform.
And it's not that we're trying to make it new
Right.
every night. It's that when we give ourselves permission to just live truthfully under imaginary circumstances, when we really give ourselves permission to do that, it is fresh. I mean, right now is like we're living this live. We're
Yes.
living this moment. It hasn't happened before. We're not trying to do the same thing we did last night because that would be up in our head. And yeah, I can see how that would get boring quick, right? If we were trying to do the same thing.
Yes. Or somebody who's just rehearsed rotely or, they just delivering lines with no intention, no doing. There's no skin in the game. I can see how they would say that. And these were actors who asked me this, actually.
Yeah.
Doesn't it get boring? You did a year or whatever it was. Like, weren't you bored? I was like, no. And I felt bad for these people because it's a different type of training that they had experienced and a different way that they went through this acting process. But it's fresh every night with living in the moment. And it's almost like a daily. During rehearsals, I remember like, okay, guys, this is the last Thursday of the October. This is the first Monday or whatever. And they're like, okay. And it gets annoying after a while. But being in that moment, it's heartbreaking. It's bittersweet, devastating, just in life in general. And we avoid that because it's overwhelming. But in the theater and the yoga classes, whatever, you come to a moment.
Yeah.
And just when you're able to explore that as an actor on stage or on set or on film, there is something you cannot deny. It is fresh. It is like at moment to moment to moment. And we train for that.
Yeah. Training in the present moment it goes beyond performance and acting. It's crucial for life because that's where gratitude is. You can have that humility that you were talking about before. It only happens in the present moment. Being in the present moment, I'm thinking about it as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this quote that Jake Gyllenhaal once said while being on set with a big name actor. He was so excited because he thought he was killing it. Shot after shot after shot, he's yelling, he's getting really into his lines. But the actor comes up to him in between takes and is like, "You're not listening to me." And then every take after that was completely different. And what I got from that after training as an actor is he wasn't truly being present and listening and reacting off of that moment. He was pre-planned with what he wanted to do.
Right.
And that's not being,
Yeah.
giving in the moment.
In these, there are short form acting classes that believe it or not, they teach actors not to memorize, not to fully memorize because it will then be more spontaneous, and not to rehearse because if they rehearse, they'll lose the spontaneity. And they actually teach actors this. And it's because they're not teaching a process. So they don't have a process. They're teaching an actor of how to memorize fully and keep the spontaneity, or how to rehearse to an exhausting level and keep the spontaneity. They don't have those tools. So therefore they're training, but don't do this because they're training at what we call a technical approach, which means, they are pre-planning. And they'll even say, like, when you go on set, it's usually these, quote unquote, quick to film classes, these straight to film acting classes. Mm-hmm. But they'll say, even when you go on set, don't do more than 3 takes. Like insist that you're not going to do more than 3 takes because otherwise it's not going to, you'll lose it after 3 takes. I'm like, oh my God. And I feel bad for the actors because they actually come out of class thinking this is how to act.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. If running something over and over and over made the performance worse, Broadway wouldn't exist.
True.
That's the end of it, right? Because if you run, like you're doing 500 shows of something, it wouldn't be able to sustain that if running it over and over and over made it worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, you need to learn the process to memorize fully to where we're using every single word of the script. And then on top of that, we need to rehearse. The more you rehearse, the more freedom you have in whatever it is we're doing.
Yes, you need that time of discovery.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, and everybody is able to memorize lines especially the way that you teach us from being in your classes, being a TA in your classes from different ages, from, I don't say 16, I think is like your youngest. I think you had someone a couple times, 70 somewhere.
Right.
It's learnable. It's not something that you cannot do. All of this is teachable and learnable, but some people just think that it's overwhelming. How do you learn these lines?
That's another really important thing that goes hand in hand with confidence is professionalism.
Yes.
Having a process. When I showed up even on a student film, but I knew my lines and I had offers that I wanted to give to the director, that's showing up. They were like, "Oh, you're so professional." But I'm just prepared.
That's it. Yeah, just being prepared.
I'm just prepared. I have a process and I'm using my process. I'm not showing up and trying to figure it out in the moment here.
Yes.
Well, I am, but
touche.
yes, right? See what I did
but
there?
you're prepared
Yes.
to then discover something new in the moment.
Right.
Which is different than showing up unprepared, trying to figure it out for the first time, right? There's a difference there.
Yeah, you need to be able to execute the mark and the angle that you're trying to go down. I think of it as like a coloring book. The process allows me to have the sharp lines, and I can color in it with however I want.
Right.
If there is no process, there is no hard lines, and you're just going to get a collaging, crazy, colorful mess, which might be cool for experimental stuff. But if you're really trying to, it's not up to you if you take 3 takes or not. You're the actor. You're supposed to give yourself to the production, to the story.
Right.
It's up to the director. If an actor came up to me and was like, "I only need 3 takes," there's the arrogance, right?
Right.
Like, come on, man, or lady, I need you to.
These
Right.
are and these are the same actors, and again, they're taught this, that if the camera is not on you, then don't put anything into your performance. So, if we're in a scene together, right? So just a quick tutorial, but when we're shooting a scene, let's say it's a 2-person scene, we're sitting at a table. Well, there's different camera angles, right? And so the camera will show both of us together in a 2-shot. It will go over my shoulder onto my partner as another shot, over their shoulder onto me as another shot. And typically there's like, even in a minimum sense, there's 6 to 8 different shots, camera setups to record this scene. Let's say it's a 2-minute scene. Within that, there's going to be 6 to 8 takes for each shot. So, even rough numbers, we're looking at anywhere between 40 and 50 takes to do a scene. We're running the scene, a 2-minute scene, 40 to 50 times from different angles that then we edit together. So the training of these technical actors, what they're told is unless the camera is on them, don't give a full performance because otherwise you'll lose it when the camera's on you. And don't give your best performance until the camera's in more of the closest shot that's going to be on you. Only then give and I'm like, man, what horrible training that is. Because if you're a well-trained actor, you could go all out every single take.
Yes.
There is no holding back. I mean, you can go all out every single take. And also, we're in an art form where we're constantly reacting.
Right.
Like the listening, like you're saying, we have to listen and react. So yeah, the camera's on your partner, if you're not going all out and giving them something to react off of, now you're putting them at a disservice.
Right. That goes back to the arrogant thing. It's all about
It's all about you, right?
It's all about you, but you should be wanting to make the best scene that you can because you don't know what you can do for your scene partner by simply listening. And heads up to a lot of actors, when you submit self-tapes, the casting director is actually looking to see how good of a listener you are to those in-between moments, not just how well you perform in your talking moments.
There's a great interview. It was with Rob Reiner and talking about A Few Good Men, working with Jack Nicholson. And it was saying, like, you know, in the famous courtroom scene in A Few Good Men, you know, you can't handle the truth and that whole thing. He went up to Nicholson and said, hey, you know, we can either shoot you first, like the close-up of you first, or we can shoot a lot of the inserts and the coverage and stuff like that of, you know, the rest of the courtroom. If you want some time to warm up, you know, what do you prefer? And he was like, no, shoot everything else first and then come back to me. Like, okay. And he said every single take, the camera wasn't on Nicholson at all, but he was going all out. He was given like an amazing full performance. He said it was the same full performance that you saw on camera. He was giving it, and he went up to Nicholson. He said, "Are you sure you don't want me to turn the camera around? You seem like you're in it." He's like, "I'm an actor, right?" He's like, "How many times do I get to act in something like this?" You know. And so he said, "No, this is what I live for.
Right.
This is what I do. I'm not going to ever hold back."
That's beautiful.
And he said, yeah. So then when they turned the camera around, he gave us the brilliant performance that he did. It was the same performance, same intensity, same emotion that he gave when the camera wasn't on him. That's why he's one of the best of all time.
That's why he's Jack Nicholson.
That's why he's Jack Nicholson.
Yes. I've heard the same about Leo DiCaprio by John Leguizamo. In Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Every take, he's behind the camera, giving it 100%. And that always stuck with me.
Wow.
If you're off camera, this is before I had acting training. If you're off camera, you're always giving it 100% to your scene partner because they deserve that.
Yeah.
They deserve that moment.
It makes the rest of the film better. It's not just about you and your performance. It's about the whole thing. You're going to look better as an actor if the film looks better. If it's a good film and it's a good story, that's going to make you look good.
I think movie stardom changed that perception, and it put a lot of that perception into our minds that this person's so big because of what they do.
Right.
When in actuality, even the movie star would know, I'm sure, that it's a team effort.
Yes.
It's a team effort to make this incredible piece of moving art.
Together.
Together.
And you cannot do it alone.
Right. That takes humility.
Yes. Oh, that seems like a good place to end our discussion on this. Yes, snaps for that. So thank you, Chris. Thank you once again for being in here.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was amazing having you on. Thank you for all of your insight. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
And Nat, so awesome doing this with you.
Thank you, Marco. You're amazing.
As are you. And thank you to all our listeners out there. We really appreciate you tuning in. We will be back with you again soon with another episode. So don't go too far away.
Bye.
All right? And remember to treat yourself with kindness. I think that's such an important lesson to do.
And can we say,
Amen.
Reward yourselves
for the risks
that you take.
Yes. All right, everyone. Bye. If you'd like to learn more about our studio and what we do, you can find us online at truthfulacting.com. And check out truthfulactingonline.com for our Learn at Home at Your Own Pace courses.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.